On September 27, 2017, a beloved nanny disappeared from an upscale Florida neighborhood. What police found 3 days later would horrify an entire community. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could prepare them for what the killer would say when he finally confessed. This is the story of Jennifer Fulford and the monster who took her life for the most shocking reason you'll ever hear. Winter Park, Florida, September 27, 2017. If you've never heard of Winter Park, picture this: tree-lined streets, million-dollar homes, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked and trust their neighbors. The idyllic suburb sits just outside Orlando. Park Avenue District, exclusive shopping, affluent families. And among those families was Reed Berman, a successful commercial real estate executive with a demanding schedule and a young son named Oliver. Reed's salvation? His assistant, Jennifer Fulford. Jennifer wasn't just an employee. For 6, maybe 7 years, she'd been the glue holding the household together. Nanny, house manager, problem solver. More than that, she was kind, exceptionally kind, the type of person who lit up a room. That Wednesday morning started like any other. 7:15 a.m. Jennifer and Oliver headed out for the school commute. When she returned, she and Reed briefly discussed the day's agenda. Dental appointment at 9 a.m., meeting with an art framer shortly after, pick Oliver up at 3:30. Business as usual. Reed headed to his breakfast meeting. Jennifer went about her day. They said goodbye. Neither of them knew it would be the last time they'd ever speak. 4 p.m. Reed's phone rings. It's Oliver's school. Jennifer never showed up for pickup. Reed tries her cell, straight to voicemail, again and again. He picks Oliver up himself. They return home around 5 p.m. The house is eerily quiet. Jennifer, gone. But then, Reed notices something strange. In one of the downstairs bathrooms, one they rarely use, sits Jennifer's purse, right beside the toilet. The seat is up. Odd. Reed and Oliver almost never use that bathroom. Reed opens the purse. Wallet? Gone. Cell phone? Gone. Credit cards? Gone. Driver's license? Gone. Her 2015 Hyundai Santa Fe? Nowhere to be found. Something is very, very wrong. Reed calls the police. But here's the thing. He doesn't call until 6:25 p.m. Why the delay? We still don't know. When Winter Park police arrive, Reed shares everything he knows. The last communication with Jennifer, a text message she sent just after 11 a.m. But here's where it gets weird. Reed has no contact information for Jennifer's husband, Robert. Think about that. His trusted employee of 7 years. He's never met his husband, never had his number? Officers track down Robert at the home he shares with Jennifer around 7 p.m. He hasn't seen her, hasn't spoken to her, but he mentions something important. Jennifer was supposed to fly to Dallas the next evening to visit her son and newborn granddaughter. There's no way she'd miss that trip. Friends confirm it. Family confirms it. Nobody has heard from Jennifer. She's vanished. That evening, Robert checks their bank records. 9:08 a.m., payment to Jennifer's dental office. Normal. 12:10 p.m., Wells Fargo ATM withdrawal. $300, the maximum amount allowed. Robert's blood runs cold. Jennifer would never withdraw cash like that. It's completely out of character. Then, Robert remembers something crucial. Jennifer's Hyundai has BlueLink, a service that lets owners track their vehicles remotely through their smartphones. There's hope. They can find the SUV, maybe find Jennifer. But there's a problem. The account is still registered under the previous owners. The account is inactive. They'll have to wait until business hours to reactivate it. September 28th, the next morning. Robert frantically completes the paperwork. The system is reactivated. Meanwhile, detectives arrive at Reed's home to conduct a thorough interview. Reed walks them through the residence, shows them everything that seems off. The abandoned purse, the unmade bed — Jennifer always made the beds — trash bags scattered on the kitchen floor. And then, something chilling. The bathtub in Jennifer's bathroom is filled with water, crystal clear, unused, as if someone drew a bath but never took it. Reed pulls up his home security alarm system. The activations tell a story, a horrifying story. 8:48 a.m., back door opens. Jennifer leaves for her dental appointment. 10:35 a.m., she returns. Door opens and closes. Between 10:30 and 11:32 a.m., no activity. Jennifer is presumably cleaning. Then, everything changes. 11:47 a.m., front door opens. It doesn't close. 11:50 a.m., 3 minutes later, master bedroom motion sensor activated. 11:53 a.m., motion sensor again. 11:54 a.m., front door closes. That's it. No more activity until Reed comes home at 4:58 p.m. Whatever happened to Jennifer happened in those 7 minutes. Detectives need more information. They review the ATM footage from that $300 withdrawal at 12:10 p.m. They expect to see Jennifer. What they see instead changes everything. A middle-aged man, eyeglasses, white t-shirt, light-colored shorts, bright blue tennis shoes, a white towel draped around his neck, hair pulled back in a ponytail, and on his left wrist, a watch with a distinctive plaid band. This man is using Jennifer's ATM card. The footage reveals something else. The same man returned to the ATM at 4:33 p.m. This time, he's dressed differently. Dark baseball cap, dark jacket, but his white t-shirt is visible underneath. It has a logo, Workout 32789. The numbers? Winter Park zip code. Reed recognizes the shirt immediately. I own one just like that. But there's something more disturbing about this second visit. His hands. They're covered in fresh cuts, open wounds. Detectives track down Janet Grimm, the art framer Jennifer was supposed to meet. Janet says Jennifer texted her at 10:18 a.m. saying she'd be back at the residence in less than 10 minutes. After that, Janet missed multiple calls from Jennifer's number. At 11:33 a.m., Janet picks up. It's Jennifer, but she sounds off, totally panicked. I have to cancel. The school just called. I have to pick Oliver up right away. But Oliver's school never called. Someone was forcing Jennifer to make that call. September 28th, the next day. Jennifer's USP is located less than 5 miles from Reed's home, parked in a public supermarket lot. The vehicle is processed for evidence on September 29th, and what they find inside is absolutely horrifying. A beer bottle in the center console. Robert says Jennifer would never drink on the job. A tan canvas bag on the passenger floorboard. Inside, a white t-shirt, a white towel, and a men's watch with a plaid band. Every single item appears to be stained with blood. These are the exact items the man wore in the first ATM footage, before the cuts appeared on his hands. September 29th, 2 days after Jennifer vanished. Another ATM transaction, but this one, it's not in Winter Park, it's in Jacksonville, Florida, 140 miles north. Someone withdrew $100 using Jennifer's card. This is the break detectives needed. They contact the Winter Park Amtrak station, and there it is, 4:59 p.m. on the day Jennifer disappeared. 1 ticket purchased, destination Jacksonville. Only 1 passenger on that train matches their suspect.
After days of showing his face on the news, asking who is this man, they finally have a name. Scott Nelson, 53 years old, extensive criminal record, currently on federal probation for armed robbery, and extremely dangerous.
Around noon, Jennifer's cell phone pings off a tower near a heavily wooded area in Orlando. With help from the Orange County Sheriff's Aviation Unit, they begin searching. What they find is every investigator's nightmare. Jennifer's body, discarded in the woods like garbage. The scene is so brutal, so horrifying, that even seasoned detectives are shaken. Jennifer Fulford, kind, hard-working, beloved, had suffered an absolutely hellish death. October 1st, 2017, just one day after Jennifer's body is discovered, U.S. Marshals locate Scott Nelson, the Sunshine Inn Motel in Jacksonville, half a mile from the Amtrak station. When ordered to exit his room, Scott initially refuses. This is it, the moment of truth. Scott Nelson is a violent career criminal with nothing to lose. This could go very, very badly. But then, he surrenders, without incident. He's taken into custody. Within 2 hours, he's sitting in an interrogation room. October 1st, 2017, evening. Scott Nelson sits across from detectives. He's calm, almost too calm. They begin going over his Miranda rights. They ask him basic questions, where he's been, what he's been doing. Then they mention a debit card. Scott freezes. What credit card? I don't know. His entire demeanor shifts. The detective presses forward. Do you have any idea why you're here? No. They explain they want to talk about unauthorized ATM withdrawals. Scott goes quiet. Then, calmly, he says the words that end the conversation. I think I'd like an attorney. Just like that, the interview is over, before it really even began. But Scott Nelson wasn't done talking. 1 month later, to the day, he mails a letter to one of the detectives. He wants to talk. Not because he feels guilty, not because he wants to help Jennifer's family, but because he wants better treatment in jail. November 13th, 2017, Federal Detention Center in Miami. Scott sits down with detectives again. This time, he's ready to talk, and what he says is absolutely chilling. Scott describes his life after being released from federal prison in May 2017. He was on probation, living in a homeless shelter in Orlando, working odd jobs, struggling to survive. One day, he took a trip to Winter Park, and he saw it. Beautiful homes, luxury cars, diamond rings, designer clothes, people living the good life. And something inside him snapped. I'm intelligent, I'm highly employable, I work like a dog, but I can't have anything. I'm just dead. He sits in a gazebo in Winter Park one night, and he makes a decision. That night, in my mind, I officially died. He's going to commit a home invasion. He's going to make an example of Winter Park. September 26th, the day before the murder, around 5 p.m., Scott watches a house. He sees Jennifer getting out of a vehicle with a young boy. They go inside. I could tell by the way she was dressed that she was not the homeowner. I thought she must be a house cleaner or something. Think about that. Scott claims he has a grudge against the wealthy people of Winter Park, but he targets Jennifer, a working-class woman, a nanny, someone just trying to make a living. Here's the truly horrifying part. Scott didn't just wake up that day and decide to kill someone. This was planned. September 16th, 11 days before the murder, Scott goes to Walmart in Orlando. Surveillance footage shows him purchasing nearly $500 worth of items: food, cigarettes, blue tennis shoes. And then the murder kit. A utility knife with a green handle. A package of 18-inch cable ties. A roll of duct tape. He knew exactly what he was going to do. What happened to Jennifer in her final moments is almost too horrific to put into words, but it needs to be told. because this is the reality of what Scott Nelson did. September 27th, 11:47 a.m. Scott poses as a delivery driver. Jennifer answers the door. He forces his way inside. He demands money, ATM cards, anything valuable. Jennifer tries to cooperate. She gives him her ATM card and PIN, but Scott says she wasn't very helpful with my needs. Victim blaming, classic narcissist behavior. Jennifer mentions that Reed has expensive watches in his bedroom. Scott goes upstairs to look. When he comes back down, Jennifer tries to call for help. Scott attacks her. He wraps her tightly in Reed's comforter. She's trapped, struggling to breathe. He puts her in the back of her own SUV. The withdrawal. Scott drives to the Wells Fargo ATM, 12:10 p.m. He withdraws $300, all while Jennifer is dying in the back of her vehicle, wrapped in that comforter, terrified, begging for her life. "Please don't kill me, please." Scott claims he couldn't feel compassion. He drives to a secluded wooded area. He takes out the items he bought 11 days earlier: the duct tape, the cable ties, the knife. Jennifer knows what's coming. According to Scott's confession, he stabbed her 3 times, once in the back, again in the back. Then, as he was walking away, he had a thought: "I'm not going to let her testify against me." He went back, and he made sure she was dead. She went limp, and I was calling her names, depersonalizing her so he didn't have to see her as human. After murdering Jennifer, Scott drives to a public restroom. He cleans the blood off himself, changes into Reed's Winter Park t-shirt, the second ATM footage. Then he goes to a 7-Eleven and buys a pizza and a beer with Jennifer's money. He calls it his blood pizza. His words: "I was actually proud. After all the years I've been kicked in the face by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I finally had a certain level of self-respect. I finally made someone pay for all that I've been through. I took my blood pizza and walked down the street while all these rich people were walking around buying jewelry. I'm carrying my pizza, thinking you have no idea what I had to do for this pizza. I ate every bite of it, and I enjoyed it. I really did. My only regret is that I hadn't killed 30 more." The forensic evidence was overwhelming. Scott's DNA on the beer bottle, Jennifer's blood on the white t-shirt, towel, and watch, the items he bought at Walmart, the ATM footage, the confession. There was no doubt. June 2019, nearly 2 years after Jennifer's murder, Scott Nelson goes to trial. He actually testifies, takes the stand, recounts every horrifying detail, and still blames everyone but himself. His probation officer, the federal prison system, society. Never once does he take responsibility. The verdict comes quickly. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder. Sentence is life, without the possibility of parole. He wanted the death penalty. He didn't get it. Instead, he'll spend the rest of his miserable life behind bars. Final thoughts. Remembering Jennifer. Jennifer Fulford was 51 years old. She was a mother, a grandmother. She never got to meet her granddaughter. She was reliable, hardworking, kind, the type of person that made everyone around her feel special. She didn't deserve what happened to her. Nobody does. Scott Nelson didn't target her because she was wealthy. He targeted her because she was vulnerable, because she was there, and because he's a monster. This case haunts me, not just because of the brutality, but because of the randomness. Jennifer was just doing her job, living her life, and she crossed paths with pure evil. Sometimes there's no deeper meaning. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and all we can do is remember them. Rest in peace, Jennifer Fulford. You deserved so much better. If this case affected you, please leave a respectful comment below. Subscribe for more true crime content, and remember, the world can be dark, but we honor victims like Jennifer by telling their stories. Thanks for watching.